This week, our guest on Black Refresh 2020 is Eric Davis, Executive Director of the Base Chicago. We discuss how his time as a Chicago cop became the genesis for the 90s hit show, New York Undercover. We also rap about his one-of-a-kind experience as the co-captain of the Phi Slama Jama University of Houston basketball team.
All right, welcome back to the Black Refresh 2020 show. My name is Todd Inman. I'm your host. And today we are very, very fortunate to have the executive director of the Base Chicago. His name is Eric Davis. He has quite a story in terms of his life. You'll be very interested to find out a lot of different things he's done via his employment, to the media, to athletics. He's just, lived probably 3 or 4 or 5 lives that most of us would envy. So, excuse me, Eric, if you don't mind, just give us a little bit about what is the Base Chicago.
First of all, Todd, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about our organization and to brag a little bit about my kids. The Base Chicago is an academic and athletic program that we run on the west side of Chicago. And if you know anything about the West Garfield Park community, it is probably the poorest community in Chicago, has the most violence. Many of the things that any other community wouldn't want to be number one in, West Garfield Park is number one in. And we wanted to go back and create a program that could uplift children, that could put positiveness within the community. And that's why we run the program there called the Base Chicago.
Okay. So Eric, we'll come back to that, but this is not your first time in your life where you really took an interest in the youth, specifically inner city youth. Tell us a little bit about your employment as a police officer and some different things you did that were very unique to touch people who were in the community, especially young people who could possibly either were on the wrong path or could potentially go down the wrong path.
Well, first of all, when I work with these kids, I'm really working with myself. I am a kid from the inner city of Chicago. Grew up in 2 neighborhoods. When I first got to Chicago, my family lived in the Cabrini Green housing developments. And from Cabrini Green, we moved to Uptown. One was a very tough neighborhood and one is a tough neighborhood. And in knowing a little bit about Chicago, there are a lot of pitfalls, in particular for young Black and brown boys. The gangs are strong, the gangs are organized, the gangs are a way to make money, the gangs are a way to protect yourself, the gangs are a way to strengthen yourself. And by the time I was 13, I wasn't quite 14, I had gotten myself shot. Shot gangbanging, I don't want to candy coat it. And, for me, once I became a Chicago police officer, and I'm still seeing kids get shot. I'm still seeing kids get shot in 2020. But I was working as a undercover police officer, and I got into a shootout with a guy that was going to kill another policeman. And I shot the offender that was going to kill the police officer. And I was then offered an opportunity to go work wherever I wanted to work. So I selected to go back and work in my neighborhood. And I went to go work in my neighborhood, not to be the police. I was going to be the police if I were there, Todd. But I went back to my neighborhood so I could be an example, a walking, talking, living, breathing example. And anytime I got out of the car, you know what? I could show kids, if anything else, we know you could be a cop. I grew up in that building. I went to this grocery store. I went to this grade school. We know we can do this. And in doing that, gang activity then, because that was the mid 80s, going into the early 90s, had really proliferated. And the gangs were really, really organized, and they were really narcotics gangs, making thousands of dollars a day. And many of the kids didn't have anything to eat, didn't have clothes, not clean clothes. Rent wasn't paid. Mom or dad could have been addicted to drugs. So it was really easy for the gangs to pull them under their wings. So my partner and I, who is an amazing brother, his name is James Martin. We were 24, 25 years old, Todd. We were sitting in the car and we said, you know what we should do? Just matter of factly, you know what we should do? We should start a rap group and become famous and take all the money we make once we get famous and put it back in the neighborhood. I mean, but that's how simple we thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
And we would go to work every day and we'd hook up with the young guys who were real rappers.
Okay.
And we would rap every day. And on our best day, music loud, Todd, can't hardly hear us. We're about C+ rappers.
I was gonna ask you, did you have a flow?
We're about C+. But you know, we kept doing what we were doing, and what it did too is it really connected us with the kids. You know, we had something to talk about.
Yeah.
And while we were doing that, word got back to a gentleman. Actually, there was a lady who was tutoring, who worked over at CBS, and she worked for a gentleman named Bill Curtis. And she went to Bill Curtis and said, "There's these cops working in Cabrini Green who rap." And you got to remember, late 80s, early 90s, rap was a bad word, especially on police departments.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I forgot about that. Yeah.
You know, there was a big thing.
Yeah.
So Bill Curtis comes to see us in Cabrini. He says, "Hey, I want to interview you." And we're like, no, absolutely not.
Now, why did you feel that way?
We were new on the job. We didn't want any problems. We didn't see ourselves as rappers or media figures. We just kind of did this as our thing with guys in the neighborhood. He comes back probably a week later and says, "Listen, I want to make a proposition." He says, what we'll do is this. I'll interview you guys, and I only put it on the 5 o'clock news because we have the news on at 5 and 10.
Okay.
He says, we'll only put it on at 5 o'clock. Just that many people don't watch the news at 5 o'clock. Mind you, we're 24 and 25.
Yeah.
We're like, all right, but only the 5 o'clock. Only the 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
He does the interview, Todd, and as soon as he's done doing the interview, he's sitting, he's listening to everybody speak. He says, I'm telling you guys, I got to put this on the 10 o'clock too. I'm like, I don't care, do what you're gonna do.
Right.
He puts the interview on at 5 o'clock, and the phone at the police station going crazy.
Wow.
I think maybe the Slick Boys are calling it the best. I think it's a project that everybody got involved in because everybody was frustrated with the killing and the drive-bys and the violence, and everyone was tired of it and everyone wanted it to stop, and everyone's working hard to keep it that way.
We're at home the next day after it was on at 10 o'clock, and now the police department's calling us. The station is calling us.
Yeah.
Hey, all these people want you. They want to talk to you. They want to see you.
Yeah.
So then what happened from that is, from being on the CBS local news here, CBS National took it and put it on TV.
Okay.
Now they were calling, asking can the Slick Boys, which was our name, can the Slick Boys come out to Trenton, New Jersey? Can the Slick Boys come out to, it's like, we can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
First of all, we don't rap well enough, and I got no message to tell anybody.
Right.
You know, we were just doing something on the block.
Yeah.
So in doing that, a guy calls up and he says, "Hey, I'm with United Talent Agency." I said, "Okay." He says, "My name is David Schiff." I'm like, "Cool." He says, "Hey, I want to come and see you guys. I'm currently in LA. I'm flying to New York, but on my way back to LA, I want to stop in Chicago." We're like, "Cool, come to Cabrini." And I'll never forget, Todd, we laughed. Don't nobody come to Cabrini.
Yeah.
And he's not coming to Cabrini.
Right.
If you're real, meet us here.
Right. So he's a Caucasian guy.
Yes.
Okay.
So as we're out and it's summertime and everybody's out in the projects. Music is bumping. I mean, there are thousands of people out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And as we're looking, we see this white cat. And as he walks closer and closer, each step, he looked richer and richer. And we said, this cat is gonna get robbed back here. As he gets close, he stops, he says, you guys are slick boys? We said, yeah.
Well, was he by himself?
By himself.
Wow.
By himself. This goes to show you, when you come in to get that paper, you ain't got no fear. And he was like, let me go get these dudes.
Exactly.
So he walks up, he says, can you take the rest of the day off? And I'm like, yeah, we can take the rest of the day off. And he says, I'll take you out to dinner. So we go to a restaurant, Gina Giorgetti's, and we figure, you know what, we're gonna get some steaks. Mm-hmm. We're gonna smoke cigars, because that's when you can smoke in the restaurants.
Yeah.
We're gonna smoke some cigars,
yeah,
have a few drinks,
right.
And we ain't never gonna see dude again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we start talking, and he says, listen, I really think I can get a movie made about you guys. Mm-hmm. He says, and I'm positive I can get a TV show done about you. We're like, okay. Yeah. He goes, this is all I ask you. This is all I ask you. I'm gonna fly back to LA. Don't let anyone else sign you. And I'm thinking, is someone else coming that we don't know about? I'm like, cool. He goes, so we can shake hands. We don't have to bring in lawyers and all that. I said, no. If your word is bond, our word is bond.
Okay.
And we shook hands, and he said, I'm going to give you a call in a week and let you know what I got.
Yeah.
Thought he calls in 2 days and says, hey, listen, I got some bad news. I can't get a movie deal for you.
Okay.
He says, but I have some good news. I have 6 appointments set up to create a TV show about you guys at the 6 largest studios. Mm. Can you guys get to LA in 2 days? Mm-hmm. I'm like, what? Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. We fly out to LA.
Was it on his dime or yours?
Oh, no, it was their dime. their dime. We're not believing any of this.
Yeah, yeah.
Even getting on the plane, we're like, we'll take the free trip.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not believing this thing.
Right.
We were just cops in the projects. And 2 of us was from the projects. Mm. Like, this don't happen to us.
Nah, right.
Not us.
Yeah, yeah.
We land in LA, treating us good. We go to the first meeting. The first meeting is at Sony. Mm-hmm. And Sony's talking good. Why don't you guys take a day, think about it. We want to do something with you. We think it'll be amazing. David Schiff pokes his head in and says, come on, they got to go. I'm like, they're offering us something. He goes, come on. Okay, we'll think about it. And we're thinking, while leaving this meeting, oh, we're going to do the deal with Sony. They're ready.
Yeah.
First meeting, they're ready.
Wow.
We get to the second meeting, we see all this paperwork on the desk. Mm-hmm. We see an old white dude. He's got like cargo shorts on, a frumpy hat, and kind of like a Hawaiian shirt. And we're at Universal.
Wow.
And he tells us, you might as well cancel the rest of your meetings. We're going to do the deal here. And we look. He says, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sign you to Uptown Records. We're going to create a TV show. I'm going to connect Andre Harrell to you.
Wow.
This is Sean Combs. He was a runner then.
Okay.
He was a runner then. He was a runner then, bro.
Like an intern type guy?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He was a runner then.
Wow.
He introduces us to the Fly Girls.
Okay. Wait, you talking about in Living Color, Fly Girls?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Met all of them. You're going to be part of this family. We're going to put this show on Fox. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And that guy was Dick Wolf.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the show that we were going to create was going to be called Chicago Undercover.
Okay.
He called back one day later, and we like, here goes the nonsense.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it was so sweet the day before. And he called and said one thing. Hey, we just want to change one thing about the show. We want to call it New York Undercover and base it in New York.
Okay.
And we created the show New York Undercover.
Okay.
And we did that for 4 or 5 years. And we took the money from that show and put it in the neighborhood.
Okay. All right.
We created homework centers, computer centers, when computers, those desktops with 3,000 each.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
We did that for our kids. Did things to help stimulate going to school. We created the largest inner city Little League baseball program in the country.
Wow.
And we did that. We did that because kids didn't eat. And when they didn't eat, the gangs were feeding them.
Okay.
So really, I love baseball. Don't get me wrong. I love baseball more than any other sport, even today. Today. And I said, you know what? We have to compete with the gangs. They're getting them because they're feeding them.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
Right. Yeah.
So what we did is we practiced 2 days a week and we played games 2 days a week. And when we did that, as soon as they came to practice, we give them a sack lunch. And as soon as practice was over, we give them another sack lunch. And our kids never touched the second sack lunch. They always took it home to their little brothers and sisters or grandma.
Okay, okay.
And that really spoke to the real need.
Yeah.
The real need that I'm seeing.
Right.
And the only thing that broke my heart about that, the only thing, was that I wish we had practicing games 7 days a week. And in building that kind of connection, I don't know if we ever talked about this. You might be a little too young to remember this. We in the early 90s, gangs were a problem in cities like LA, New York, Detroit.
Yes.
We then, because of the relationships we created, just by what I told you, we set up the peace treaty in Chicago.
Okay.
On behalf of the Traveling Vice Lord Nation, I'd just like to say, we're gonna stick with the peace, 110%, no violence. Stop the peace, brothers.
And the police department didn't really appreciate that either.
No?
No. I started to learn more about politics.
Okay.
But, this is what my partners and I thought. First of all, I live in those communities. And those babies that I see look like my babies who are home sleeping. And as a man,
yes,
if I can help my community do better, I'm going to do what I can do.
Right, right.
And you're talking about every gang in Chicago put their guns down.
Wow.
Every gang. No gang murders for a year, maybe a little longer.
Are you serious?
That's serious, team.
And that was directly from what? From the programs you guys institute?
What had happened in Cabrini is a guy from a rival gang shot at another guy. He missed the target that he was shooting at, and he shot a baby named Dantrell Davis in the head, who was walking to school with his mother.
Oh, goodness.
And for us, we were like, enough is enough. Enough is enough. And for me, in having those ties to the gang, before I was even a police officer, I went to some guys and said, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do. And then we talked to the guys in the green, and everywhere we went, no one gave any pushback. Everybody was tired of the violence. We really didn't have programming then. What we would do is we used our monies to create programming and to strengthen programs that were already in place.
Okay.
And then what we actually did is we got police officers to come on board and actually run the learning centers.
Okay.
where we had our computers and run our golf program and run our Boys and Girl Scout program.
Wow.
And run our Little League baseball program.
Okay.
And this is what I'll tell you, Todd.
Mm-hmm.
They pay you a lot of money in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Had I known that getting famous, you could do that much, I would have got famous a long time.
That's
so
what's up.
I know why kids aspire to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Firsthand.
So I guess viewers like myself who didn't know this story, when we watch New York Undercover, we can know the backstory of how this show, I guess directly and indirectly impacted, would you say dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of young people's lives for the better?
Thousands.
Okay.
Thousands. You're talking about a place like Robert Taylor had 75,000 people living there.
Wow.
A place like Cabrini Green had 50,000 people living there.
Yeah.
Those are small cities.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And you know what? It's just what you do if you have the capability to do it.
Yes.
And for me, it was very easy to do because these kids are growing up where I grew up.
Yeah.
So it was easy for me to relate. So when I talk about those kids, I'm really trying to help and asking myself the question every day. When you were a kid, what did you need? Mm-hmm. If you were a kid, what would you do for you?
Right.
So it became very easy. And I still take that approach with kids on the West Side at the base Chicago. Mm-hmm. I still take that same approach because to be quite honest with you, I was working for Major League Baseball before I went to the base.
Okay.
And I was running the youth academy here in Chicago. And I'm going to tell you something. To work for Major League Baseball, it's a pretty easy job, Todd.
Okay.
You say Major League Baseball and you're the Pied Piper. You get a lot of friends pretty quickly.
Yes.
And the Chicago Cubs president and Robert Lewis, who's the founder of the base out of Boston, asked if I would be interested in doing something more grassroots because they knew about my history.
Okay, good.
And my only question was, well, tell me what neighborhood you're thinking about doing it in. And had they said, Lincoln Park, had they said Ravenswood, had they said Hyde Park, which are really nice neighborhoods in Chicago, I would have said, I'm not interested in that.
Okay.
But when they said that, the only neighborhoods we're even considering are West Garfield Park, Inglewood, or Roseland. And those are struggling communities. And I said, absolutely. That's what I'm interested in. Because I love to see the underdog win.
Yes.
Aristocrat TV, an alternative world for ambitious African Americans and their diverse social circles. What is an ambitious African American? Someone that strives to level up in their lives, whatever level that their parents birthed them into, either personally, professionally, or educationally. An aristocrat works hard to take things further. In the span of their lifetime, Aristocrat Nation wants to see African Americans take major measurable strides toward restoration and advancement. Why call it Aristocrat TV? Aristocrat is defined as the best and most elegant. In order for African Americans to compete globally, we have to see ourselves as the best and not be influenced by the images that for so long have defined us as the bottom class. Aristocrat TV is inclusive and open to everyone. We live, work, and socialize with people of all ethnicities and want to include them. Members of Aristocrat Nation respect themselves and others, take care of their families, vote, and wake up with a purpose every day. Aristocrat TV, leveling all the way up and then some.
We're located in a community that is just off the charts with gun violence. And we have some of the poorest performing schools in the city and probably the nation. And, we've decided and made it our mission that we're going to educate our kids through using sports. So what the base Chicago is this, simply. Our kids, when they walk in the building, my kids will all tell you about the league they're going to. the NBA, NFL, MLB. They'll tell you all about it, tell you the complete story. And we want to try to help them get there.
Okay.
But along the way, I'm trying to get them in another league. I'm trying to get my kids in the Ivy League.
Okay.
And how it works at the base, Todd, is simply this. To participate in our programming, you got to pay a tuition. You got to pay a fare. You got to pay your share. And how the kids and their parents pay is simply this. You must come to mentoring classes. You must come to be tutored. You must come and take SAT and ACT prep classes. You must be in the 8th grade enhancement for selective enrollment testing program. You must do community service. That's your tuition. And what we're going to give you for that price is you're going to play baseball year round. We have girls dance. We have girls softball. We have 7-on-7 football. And how we really end up paying the kids, because you would say that's a fair exchange in itself. What we ask them to do, and then what we've given them. What we do in the summertime, and sadly, it doesn't look like it's going to happen this summer because of the virus, is we then take our kids all across the country to compete. Last year, we took our children to New York and Boston and Pittsburgh and Indy. And this year, we plan to take them to LA and to Las Vegas and to New Orleans to compete. And that's huge for our kids, who many of them have never been, not off of their block or out of the neighborhood. Many of them have literally never been off their block and 3 houses down either way. They've only been to school.
Wow.
And what's sad is their parents are much like them. So to take a kid to New York City, and anytime we go out of town, they compete athletically. We do community service, and we do an educational piece, whether that's visit colleges, book tours, we do something. And our kids, by the time they get back to West Garfield Park in Chicago, they are different kids.
Yeah.
They are experienced kids. They are kids now that when we talk about dreaming big, they can start to imagine what that looks like outside of their neighborhood, outside the block.
Right.
So that's how we work it. And when you talk about metrics on our success, we started about 2.5 years ago on the west side of Chicago, and we had 0 kids because the program didn't exist.
Right, yeah.
We have 362 kids today.
Wow.
And if we decided, and I intentionally have chose not to start basketball, because basketball, if you grew up in Chicago, they will make you a basketball player. And particularly on the west side of Chicago, all those guys you see in the NBA, that's where they're from. A good amount of them from the west side.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm trying to break stereotypes and narratives. I don't want my kids to only think, I'm gonna be a drug dealer, I'm gonna be a basketball player, I'm going to the league, and I throw everything else away.
Right.
And I have a strong opinion and some strong issues with AAU basketball, particularly in my city.
Right.
You know, because we probably produce here in Chicago, and if I said Chicago and the Chicagoland area, 150 Division I basketball players every year.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's what we do here. But there's a dark side to basketball that I don't want in my building. Yet, I have some guys that can get on board with what we're trying to deliver. But probably what scares me more than anything else is if I introduce basketball tomorrow, where we are, and I'm going to give you an idea of where we are. We have 2 divisions in Illinois basketball. We have A and AA. Okay? Do you know both state champions? The schools are in my neighborhood.
Wow.
A and double A.
Yeah, yeah.
And all those kids live in my gym.
Okay.
But I know if I started basketball tomorrow, we would go from 362 kids to 770 kids.
Yeah.
And we don't have the capacity to handle that yet. So we're probably going to start biddy basketball this fall, you know, inshallah, God willing, if we can go back outside ever. And I'll probably start with biddy developmental basketball, because what I want to do is instill the values of the organization in the kids. So we don't dilute or pollute what we have as a thought process currently at the Bay Chicago.
Understood. All right. So since you did segue into basketball, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about your terrific experience, and really one of a kind experience as a member of University of Houston's Phi Slama Jama.
What do you want to talk about that? What do you want to know about that, huh?
So I do want to know, first and foremost, you know, how did you, you know, you talked about AAU and those type of things. How did you even end up at that school? You know, were you recruited? You know, how did you get there?
Yeah, I was recruited. When I was in high school, I was an All-American football player and basketball.
And what high school was this?
I went to Amerton High School on the north side.
Okay.
And you know, to be honest, I kind of got recruited this way. We grew up in Uptown, not a stitch of grass anywhere. We would play football during football season, baseball during baseball season, basketball during basketball season, and we would even be out playing field hockey.
Oh, wow.
And for us, we had an ice skating rink down the street. We even ice skated and played ice hockey.
Okay, all right.
You know, we just balled.
Yeah, yeah.
And we did that really because, you know, we had a Boys and Girls Club down the street, the McCormick Girls and Boys Club. Then it wasn't even girls. It was just the McCormick Boys Club. And, you know, we stayed involved in those activities to keep us, you know, out of the way. And still, if you remember, I still got shot at 13 years old.
Now, where did you get shot on your body?
I got shot in the stomach and in the calf.
Wow.
So in playing ball and thinking about what I wanted to do, how that happened is that there was a guy named Terry Major. And Terry Major was getting recruited to the University of Alabama.
Okay.
So you're a young guy. You say, yeah, okay. Like that's regular. You got to remember, there was no Instagram. There was no Snapchat.
That's a good point.
How you find a guy in Uptown?
Yeah, yeah.
All the way up north.
Yeah, yeah.
And we saw Bear Bryant in our neighborhood.
Wow.
And I was like, man, okay. And Terry went down to Tuscaloosa and played football for Bear Bryant.
Okay.
And then next up was my older brother. And my older brother got recruited and played at Ohio State, played football. So, you know, me being a young guy, I'm thinking, I can't wait till it's my turn to get recruited. It was just what you did.
Yes.
You know, this is the product that we produce. So, of my brothers and of my cousins, and now of my nephews, I am the shortest boy. I am the runt of the litter.
Yeah.
And you know what?
What's your height, by the way?
6'3".
Oh, okay. All right. So that's not short, you know, by my standards, at least.
and you know, when you get to be the runt of the litter, you start to kind of have an attitude about that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, people ask me, well, when'd you start dunking? It's like, I don't know. You know, I'm playing with my brother and my cousin. They're like, go to the basket, dunk. Oh, okay. Gotta go to the basket and dunk. I didn't think that, what are you doing dunking?
Yeah.
Never thought about that.
Right.
If they were dunking, if I had to stay out there all night until I was able to,
yeah,
that's what I was gonna do.
Right, right.
Because it was about competing.
Sure.
And I'll never forget when my brother was being recruited, Jesse Owens took my father and my two brothers and myself out to dinner
Wow.
and recruited him to Ohio State.
Jesse Owens?
Yeah.
He's the GOAT, man. The GOAT of all GOATs, man.
Man, anytime I meet somebody great, if whatever they do, I touch them. I want a little bit of that luck.
It's incredible, man.
I
Wow.
touch them.
Woo.
And so by the time I became a senior in high school, I'd become an All-American football player and basketball player.
Okay.
And baseball was probably my best sport, but the problem with baseball is it was so cold in the spring in Chicago that I didn't want to play it. Not in the cold.
Sure.
And Chicago has a way of just making you into a basketball player, as we spoke earlier.
Yes.
So for me, I was actually going to go to Loyola University, which is right here in Chicago. And you've heard about them the last few years, but when I was a young guy, they were tough. You know, they had Larry Knight, they had Champ, you know, NBA guys.
Yes.
And they also had a guy that you're probably familiar with, but you didn't know, Tony Parker.
You're not, I mean, not the French, you know, Tony Parker from San Antonio Spurs.
His father that's from my neighborhood.
Get out of here.
Come on, man.
Wow, that's
His
crazy.
pops. That's his pops.
Okay, all right.
And he was he was a whip. His
For real?
pops, his pops was crazy. Absolutely. You know,
Wow.
he didn't get like he got by accident.
That's what's up.
Yeah. And then Tony went and played over in France and met his mom and, you know, made little Tony.
Yeah, you know, I always wondered, you know, how could this guy be so good coming from France, you know? But now you just connected the dots, you know?
The Chicago connection.
Exactly.
So now I'm gonna go there because, you know, just to show you how you think. Right down the street from the neighborhood, gonna have my own apartment.
Yeah.
Me and the fellas, we're gonna live it up. 4 years.
Right.
4 years living it up right on the lake.
Yeah.
Shooting ball. Come on, man.
Yeah.
And the coach gets fired.
Okay.
So now, you know, I don't know how much history your audience knows about college basketball or pro basketball, and you know, I'm really a stickler about that. Know the history before you spout off about who's the greatest, who's this. You got to know this game.
Yeah,
Many of us don't, because, you know, history is about last night.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
good point.
and for me, I wanted to go to UCLA.
Okay.
And UCLA at that time, you know, they had won about 10 national championships in a row.
Yeah.
In a row.
Absolutely.
In a row.
It's incredible. They were killing it. I mean, they had, you know, Lou Alcindor and Bill Walton. I mean, they had it going on. Yeah.
So I wanted to go play there. And I let them know, hey, I'd like to come. And they tell me, we're not interested in you. I'm like, what? Hey, don't you know, you got my credentials.
Yeah.
No, we're not interested. I was hurt.
Yeah.
I was hurt.
Right.
And you know what? And I never said it. People would ask me, where you gonna go? What you gonna do? Wait, I don't know. But I knew I wanted to go, but I didn't even want to say it out my mouth until I knew I could go there.
Right.
And when they told me we're not interested, we get guys out of LA, we get guys out of New York. I said, okay. So then you know what I did, Ty?
What?
Because I told you I'm a competitor.
Right.
I'm gonna pick every school that's been a problem for you, UCLA. So you know where I went to visit?
Let me see.
USC.
Well, I know. Huh?
Memphis.
Okay. What about
Then was Memphis State.
Okay.
I went to USC, Memphis State, Houston, and you remember Houston really got on the map by beating UCLA in the Astrodome.
That's right. Because Lou Alcindor was on that team, right?
Yeah. And Alvin Hayes was on our team.
Okay. All right.
And Don Duck Cheney.
That's right. Yeah.
So those are the type of schools I went to visit because my goal was, you don't want to see me in your uniform? You're going to see me.
Right.
You're going to see me. And that's how I got down to University of Houston. And when I got down to the University of Houston and talked to Guy V, and as the kids say, we chopped it up about basketball. I said, you want me to come here and play like I play in the park? Just get up and down? Kick to the hole?
Right.
Dunk every time you can? Be flamboyant?
Right.
I could do that.
Yeah.
And plus I wanted to go to a school where, you know, Houston isn't comparable to Chicago, but it is a city. And to go down to U of H, it's a real city. I could eat the food that I like. I could listen to the music I like. But probably what got me to Houston more than Houston itself was that Texas Southern is about 4 blocks away.
Okay. So I know you.
On my recruiting trip, I spent more time at Texas Southern than I did at the University of Houston.
I'm sure you did.
And once I got there, that didn't change.
Right.
So when I got to Houston, to have the opportunity to have, you know, young men like Clyde Drexler and Benny Anders and Akeem Olajuwon and Lyndon Rose and Larry Mishaw play with me. What do you say about that if you're a basketball player? You know, you're thinking we might have a chance to do something great. And in your life, that's what you search for. If you can do something great one time, you should drop to your knees and be thankful. Yeah. And believe you me, Todd, when we were doing what we were doing, we knew that we didn't lose often. We kind of knew at the end of my senior year that we're kind of like the Rolling Stones. You know, couldn't move around Houston. Anywhere we went, packed. They would announce that we would be at clubs on the radio, packed.
Yeah.
Couldn't eat in a restaurant. Couldn't eat. And you got to remember this. You're talking about 80 to 84, right?
Right.
Just 10 years earlier, Elvin Hayes and Don Chaney were the first blacks allowed to play at the University of Houston.
Wow.
Just 10 years earlier.
Wow.
So you got to remember, in 1980, you got a team of 10 black boys, 2 white cats.
Yeah.
Everywhere they go in the Deep South, they're loving them. Wearing a Confederate flag coat and hugging you. I wish we were taking pictures then, like, you won't believe this.
Right.
You know?
It's crazy.
It was crazy.
Wow. So I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. So I guess who would you compare in terms of that type of notoriety, you know, who's come after you? Would you say somebody, a group like maybe the Fab Five would be able to compare to how you guys felt and were treated?
No. There's only 2 teams that I can think of. That would be the Chicago Bulls and Showtime Los Angeles Lakers.
Wow. Okay.
Nobody in college.
Nobody.
No.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to tell you when I realized we were great. I'll tell you. We used to play and practice at a place called Fondy Recreational Center.
Okay.
And we would practice with the Houston Rockets. Moses Malone, who was the MVP of the NBA at that time,
yes,
grabbed all the Rockets and said, come on, we're going to play you guys.
Yeah.
We play the Rockets, and we just play 11 buckets straight. And then the next guys are coming in. 10-10. We got the ball first.
Yeah.
Boom. We hit it.
Yeah.
We beat the Houston Rockets.
Wow.
Hold on. We tell them, get off the court. Next, bring them up. Moses Malone is hot, bro.
Yeah.
He's hot.
I'm sure he is.
Run it back, get off the court. And he put everybody off the court. Told his team, play. Don't play these boys cheap. Put it on them this time. They step up. You know, these are NBA guys.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. 10-10 again.
Wow.
Clyde goes to the hoop. Finger rolls. Nothing but the bottom of the net.
Nice.
We run out the gym. We don't want to play next.
Right,
we
right.
run out, grab all our stuff, and we quit.
Yeah.
And them are screaming at us, come back, run it again. We're not running no more.
Right.
We beat the Houston Rockets twice.
That's crazy.
By the time we got back to our houses and got out to the club, man, they were already talking about it. To this day, maybe in Fondy on that day, maybe Todd, there were 100 people there. People will tell you that story, but now there had to be at least 100,000 people there.
Right.
Because everybody will tell you they saw it happen.
Yeah.
There were 100 there, not 100,000.
Right.
But when we beat the Rockets twice, with Moses Malone in the middle, that's when we knew we arrived.
Yeah.
And Moses and Moses said something crazy to the reporters once. He says, hey, listen, what do you think about all these guys going to the NBA? Some of them are talking about leaving early. You know, then I was going to the NFL. Rob Williams was a first rounder. Lyndon Rose was like a third rounder to the Lakers. Didn't know if Clyde was going to leave or Akeem was going to leave. And his statement to the press was, those guys, they're not going to like the NBA or the NFL. They're probably going to take pay cuts. But I didn't have to tell you that caused the storm.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I'm like, who asked him? He said, we have no idea what that means.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
So of course, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the Final Four of 83 and 84.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, for me, my last year was 82.
Oh,
I was in the NFL. But I can surely give you an opinion.
Sure.
You know, first of all, if you came inside our circle, everyone will tell you we're really most upset that we didn't win the national championship in 1982.
Okay.
My last year.
Yes.
That's a conversation. If you got us all together, that still makes us angry.
Really?
Oh, no doubt. Because we were those guys, the right attitude, the right everything.
Okay.
And you know, we just didn't play well. We played North Carolina in the semifinals. And, you know, our guys were still looking around like, man, we're here. Like, you got to play. You got to play against Perkins and Worthy. And we didn't know who the skinny kid on the left side of the court was.
Right.
Had no idea he was Mike Jordan.
Okay.
And got down 20. And, you know, you get down 20 to a North Carolina, that's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? Once we got back focused, not only did we come back, took the lead. But you can't survive being down 20.
Yeah.
When it wasn't a 3-point line, wasn't a shot clock. That wasn't that day then.
Right.
So they go on and win the national championship, and we're still mad to this day. So the next year, the guys are angry and they're playing for something. They're playing because, you know what? Somebody else has our trophy.
Yeah.
And they played NC State the next year.
Yes.
And this is what I'll say about NC State. They were a group of guys who respected their coach and respected the abilities that they had. And what I mean about that is this, Todd. They knew there's no way we could run with them and play with them. So we're not going to try. What we have to do is keep this game in the 50s and at most, the low 60s. so we have a chance. So that's what they did. And what we did is this. We talked trash. We were finger rolling, putting it through our legs and around the back, telling guys, you're a buster, man.
Right.
I heard you can play. You can't play. And you know what? That worked on 90% of guys. They're like, I'm breaking out. I don't care if you're playing Purdue. I don't care if you're playing Connecticut. They're like, I got to show these guys I can play. I don't care what my coach going to have to sit me down.
Right.
Because I'm not going to let them do me like I'm in the park and they're playing with a toy out here.
Yeah.
And we would get them to try to do what we do, Todd, every day.
Right.
It's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to beat us today trying to play like we play every day.
Right.
Sucker them in, then put the kabang on them.
Right.
And NC State wouldn't do it. They wouldn't fall for it. They stayed within their lanes, man, and got it close enough. They threw a punch. Bang, they got the knockout. And you know what? I respect them for that. I'm not angry at them at all. I respect them because they didn't beat us at our game. They beat us at their game. And it was up to us. It was up to us to make them play. We should have forced our will on them. Mm-hmm. Because part of the problem is in '83 is if you remember the semifinal game, Houston versus Louisville, which is probably the greatest aerial game ever played in college basketball. People will still tell you that was the greatest college basketball game of all time. That was the national championship. What was going to happen with NC State was just a matter of what the score was going to be that Houston beat them by. And NC State said, this is what everybody's thinking. If we can do this for 40 minutes, we'll have a chance. And you know what? They did everything they needed to do. Had they not for 39 minutes and 20 seconds, 39 and 50 seconds, they would have lost. They did everything they were supposed to do for 40 minutes, and they won.
That final dunk was what, Lorenzo Charles? Is that who that was?
I don't try to remember those names.
Yeah, man. My family's from Raleigh, so I used to go to basketball camp at NC State. I was a big fan when I was a kid. So
okay.
I got a chance to take pictures with Jim Valvano, rest in peace, and I think Thurl Bailey, that group back then.
Sure.
But yeah,
there was a Chicago kid on that team too.
Who?
Gannon.
Terry Gannon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I took a picture with Terry Gannon as well. He could shoot lights out, man.
Chicago kid.
But I bet you he wasn't for no Cabrini Green, right?
No, he wasn't.
Do you guys as a group of teammates ever get together for reunions and those type of things?
Yeah, we talk to each other all the time, still on the phone. Their kids are my nieces and nephews, and my kids are their nieces and nephews. In this thing called life, when you accomplish something great, you want to stay together.
Yeah,
I'm sure we wouldn't be in contact had we been 0-30.
Yeah.
But we did something, and what's funny is, while we were in the midst of it, we couldn't appreciate it, didn't even recognize it. I didn't think that, Todd Inman would want to talk to me about 1980s basketball in 2020.
Yeah. It's incredible. So let me just ask you this, before we kind of wrap up, as far as at least the athletics. So either Hakeem or Clyde, either of those in terms of, do you have any kind of, surprise, or are you surprised their careers were as spectacular as they were professionally? Or did you always feel like these guys will be Hall of Famers?
I never guessed that they would be in the Hall of Fame. I knew absolutely they would be in the NBA. What I feel bad for those that love basketball is that many of you never got a chance to see Benny Anders play.
Okay.
And Benny Anders was the best basketball player I've ever played with or against. Wow. In Chicago, in the league, anywhere. He is the best basketball player I've ever played with. And just to give you a little bit on his lineage, Todd, his uncle, Benny's, his uncle is Willis Reed.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Willis is Benny's mom's brother.
Mm.
Benny's mom's sister, her son is Orlando Woolridge.
Wow. Okay. So he's got the pedigree.
Yeah, it's in the bloodline.
Yeah.
And you know what? He was 6'6", 6'7", handle the ball like a guard, shoot like a guard, go to the hole like a power forward, long arms. He was the deal. He was the deal. You know, the only problem with Benny is that he actually picked the wrong school to attend.
Where'd he go?
Well, he went to the University of Houston with us.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But it was the wrong school for him. And it was the wrong school because, I mean, I'm going to be honest, we were pros when we were in college. You know, we had a lot of freedom on the court and off the court.
Yeah.
And you know, especially with all of the things that were occurring, you need structure. I mean, again, we're 18 to 22-year-old black kids being treated like the Rolling Stones in the Deep South.
Yeah.
You know, this is all new to him. And he's from a town in Bernice, Louisiana, where I think the population might be 1,200 people.
Wow.
So now just to make the transition to Houston is huge. And now you're flying everywhere. Restaurants you walk in give you tables. Every girl knows your name. That's a hard adjustment if you're an NBA player. As a matter of fact, they have seminars to talk about the pitfalls of everything we just talked about.
Yes.
And we were inundated with that when we were young men. I'll tell you what was funny is the only place I could get some peace is going to class.
Wow.
Everything else, and many days I couldn't get across campus.
What, like autographs and all that kind of stuff?
All of that. Autographs. Here's my phone number. Hey, come to a party.
Right.
And it's easy to get distracted.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've been down to Texas. I think that's the factory where they make pretty women. And then ship them out.
Wow. Okay. All right. I gotta look a little more thoroughly. I've been to Dallas and Houston, but you know, I gotta check it out. Oh man, that's crazy though, man. But yeah, that was.
I just think it was too much too soon.
Okay.
And he wouldn't be the first kid to falter because it was too much too soon.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish, as a basketball guy, I wish others would have had the opportunity to see this guy go.
Yeah. So what did he finish his career at University of Houston, or what?
No, he got put out of school. There was an incident and he got thrown out of school.
Okay.
And once again, it is a sad story.
Okay.
It is a sad story, which, you know, is the story that we followed up on the 30 for 30 that we did with ESPN.
Yes.
And that's what that story really is about. It's about, from what I just told you, and once you watch the 30 for 30, you could see what it culminated into. Gotcha.
Yeah. So Eric, yes, you know, as we wrap up, well, before I ask my final question, how can people find the Base Chicago website and social media?
Yeah, we're www.thebase.org. We're a 501c3 on Instagram and Facebook. It's The Base Chicago. Anything you can do, financial donations, especially in this time, are important. But even if it's some encouragement, even if it's when folks are in Chicago and they're busy travels and they want to come and speak to our kids, we see great value in that, because for our kids to be what they want to be, they have to see people doing what they want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's terrific. So actually another thing before I wrap up would be, you know, certainly I want to, you know, point out the fact that you are certainly a man of Omega, like myself.
True.
So, you know, I just love what you guys are doing. And you know, I just really appreciate your life's dedication to the causes of African Americans, especially the African American youth. I mean, that's a true legacy, man. And as you kind of pointed out, we're not here on this earth long, and for you to dedicate your life to, again, our people is just admirable, man. So you know, I have a ton of respect for you, man.
I appreciate that, Todd. And this is the last thing I'll leave you with. What I use for motivation every day is my two great grandfathers. Mm-hmm. One I had the good fortune of meeting and knowing and loving, and the other one, we have a picture of him holding my mother in my house.
Okay.
And my folks live with me, which is another blessing.
Okay.
And both of my great grandfathers were born slaves.
Wow. Okay.
They were born into slavery.
Yes.
When slavery was abolished, they were little boys, but they were born property.
Yes.
And any chance or any opportunity I get, I aggressively seek it, mm-hmm. and I work it, not for me, but for all the things in the cotton fields that my great-grandfather might have wanted to be, but couldn't.
Yes.
That my grandfather and grandmother wanted to be, but mm-hmm. couldn't.
Right.
And my dad is 94 and my mom is 89 mm-hmm. for the things they wanted to be, mm-hmm. and couldn't. So I have always felt, and I've used that energy as fuel to go out and seek what they could not have seek.
Yes.
When they were young. So I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Yes. That reminds me of the Maya Angelou poem, you know, when she says, "I am the dream and the hope of the slave."
Absolutely, bro. Yeah. Absolutely. So when we circle back to what our oath is as men of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, that creed fit into my natural beliefs. So I go out and I do what is owed for the wonderful life I've lived and had the opportunity to live. So I'm just paying it forward.
Okay. So let me just ask you this as we wrap up. Again, thank you so much for joining me and us, Eric. But as you know, the theme of this show is called Black Refresh 2020. Mm-hmm. And, you know, with this time that it's really a pause in American history with this virus. A lot of us are homebound and not able to live the normal kind of lifestyles we have lived. And I really believe it's an opportunity for African Americans, again, to hit the refresh button, mm-hmm. and for us to, you know, unify, you know, develop some aspirations and to move together as one in a positive direction and to really make up ground, you know? Right. So with that being said, Eric, if your dream could come true as far as African Americans, especially the ones that you deal with on a day-to-day basis that have a long way to go to be where they should be and where you'd like to see them, if your dream could come true at the conclusion of this pause in American history, what would you like to see us, where would you like to see us being?
At the Base Chicago, our motto is 1, 2, 3 base, 4, 5, 6 family. And so many of the children we serve at the base, and this is pretty endemic of many communities in our country, dad is not in the home, dad is not in the lives of kids. And what we can start to do during this pandemic is to mend relationships where fathers will support the mothers of their children and the wives of their children. I think if we could just build family first, we don't need the grandiose ideas. Everything that I've done in my life, they really haven't been home runs. I have won ball games all of my life, whether producing TV shows or documentaries or owning sports teams or playing in the NFL. All of those things were all base hits. Here's a base hit, here's another base hit, to
Yeah.
score a run.
Right, right.
And we shouldn't want to rush out and bite off more than we can chew.
Mm-hmm.
Let's fix our home situations. Let's be supportive of our children and our families and our wives and our husbands. Let's start to focus in on education and why it's important. And if for no other reason that it's important, there used to be a law that said it was against the law to educate us. And the things that are occurring in our communities now because of this virus are really caused because of two things: lack of education and poverty. Mm. You will remain in poverty if you are not educated. So what I would like to see is for us to embrace each other. And I'm not talking about outside of your home, because then I'll ask you, love my son like you love your son. How many brothers could you say that to now? I don't want you to love my son like you love your son. I see what your relationship is with your son. Mm-hmm. But I think that's when you get real community, when love starts in the home, then it automatically goes out to the block and then out to the community. And then we can get on other things once we accomplish that.
All right. All right. Well, again, thank you, Eric Davis, for joining us, and certainly best of luck. And you're in our prayers with all the efforts that you all are doing at the Great Chicago. And certainly we'd love to have you on again as we, have more things develop in what you guys are doing. Again, if you, something you're willing to do, we'd love to have you back on.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. You and your family be safe.